What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. Happy 4th of July to all of our American listeners out there. And to those of you who are not in the borders of the United States, enjoy your day at work. How's everybody doing? Lauren, you're very festive today.
Yes, this was the last thing they had at Target for the holiday. Waited till the last day. So here we are.
Okay. Tommy, big plans for the 4th?
We are, the only really rules that I have for the 4th of July is there has to be a grill that's on, and I have to be near some sort of body of water.
Same.
Out in the sunshine. That's
Now,
it.
I feel that now that you are an impending father, or at least that's been become public, that you are going to start gravitating more and more closely to the grill and start looking over people's shoulders as they are manning said grill.
Let's just say if this was our solar system, I'd be closer to the orbit of planet Earth than I am Neptune. So my orbit has gotten a little bit closer, a little bit tighter around that grill.
Let's embrace it, and then pretty soon you'll be at the grill with a cold beverage, talking about lawn care or home maintenance.
Yep,
that happens. So just go with it.
I noticed you seeded with native grass. How's that growing?
Exactly. Yeah. What kind of that? It just happens. Go with it. It's just part of your natural evolution as you progress into fatherhood.
What do you guys think about turf for grass?
Like fake turf? Like the fake turf?
Like when I visited Presley in Arizona, it was like everybody had
you don't need to water it.
turf,
It's also like nothing grows at most of the year there because it's so hot. It's just desert, right?
I know, and it made me think, wow, I would never have to mow my lawn again. This would be amazing.
So from an aesthetic standpoint, I'm not a fan. At least in the front yard. Love it in the backyard. I think it's fine in the backyard. From a saving water standpoint, environmental standpoint, I totally get why people do it, because
it's actually terrible for the environment.
Is it? Well, then never mind.
If you want to, as far as like the actual like growth of things around, if you're in a place that like natural grass and things like that grow, it kills it.
So if I brought it here to upstate New York, I would be ruining my environment.
Potentially, it like suffocates everything pretty much.
Okay.
Lesson learned.
Sorry, this could be a whole other tangent.
Yeah, it's fine. I literally had this conversation with Tiffany 2 nights ago because of the whole home building process, and I've been lurking on the landscaping subreddit for a while.
There you go. And
they're like
there
are hardcore like anti-turf people. But is it a female thing? Because Tiff is super intrigued by turf as well.
No, my wife hates it. She refuses. She's like, no.
So mine would just be because then it would look perfect. You don't need to worry about, like in my backyard, half of the yard gets a lot of sun and the other half never gets sun because of the trees. So I really only have grass in half of my backyard. And aesthetically, it's annoying.
And I think it's great. I mean, like I said, backyard for kids and for pets and stuff. Yeah, I don't know why. I just like it. Not in the front.
I told Tiff if we ever put in
party in the back.
Yeah, exactly. If we did turf, I would want 3 different levels of grass so I could practice my short game. You know.
There you go. Now it's functional.
All right. Well, other than the benefits, the pros and cons of artificial turf, we got a lot to talk about today. There's actually a lot going on. And a lot has happened within the past couple of days. So we're going to get into that in our headlines. And then later on in the show, we're going to bring on Dallin Pepper and Ariel Lowen, the 2 fittest Americans. And we are bringing back podium picks for this episode. Figured we wanted to do something fun for the July 4th holiday. And we are having a best free things draft, since we're celebrating our freedom as a nation here on this 4th of July, year of our Lord 2024. And we thought, hey, you know what? Let's have a little fun. We'll bring on the fittest Americans. And we recorded that yesterday. So we'll have that for you as well. So that's a lot of fun. And then we'll do PRs and no reps in our usual business as well. But before we get to that, we want to thank our sponsor for today. And that is Thirdzy, the collagen-based drink powder that helps with joint and connective tissue repair and has other ingredients like magnesium, L-theanine, and GABA that are included to help calm your central nervous system and support deep and REM sleep. You drink your Thirdzy before you go to bed at night, maybe an hour before you get under the covers. You're going to sleep longer, you're going to sleep better, and you're going to get more deep sleep. It's been a huge benefit for me. I've been getting up a lot earlier now because I go to the 5 a.m. CrossFit class. Probably don't get to bed as early as I should, but because of Thirdzy, I'm able to get quality sleep, feel good when I wake up, get a good workout in, maybe sometimes come home, take a little bit of a nap. Just depends on what the day looks like, but cannot recommend Thirdzy enough. If you are looking to improve your recovery and your sleep, you got to give this stuff a try. You can go to thirdzy.com, scan the QR code on your screen, use our code TEF, and you will save 20%. Big fans of Thirdzy, and I think you will be too if you give them a try.
Yep. And one little like trick that I've discovered way too late. Look, it's going to be 4th of July. You're going to be celebrating freedom. You will probably have a Frosty Frathwagon or a Wobbly Pop at your local barbecue. Everyone knows that adult beverages jack up your sleep.
Mm.
The other day, had a couple in celebration of my dad's birthday. Took some Thirdzy after, and it combated the lack of deep sleep that typically holds me back when I have a few of those drinks. I get really light sleep if I've had a few adult beverages. That was actually not the case this time around, and I had a more normal night of sleep afterwards. So helps kind of combat some of the ill effects of your other lifestyle choices.
All right, thirdzy.com. The code is TEF. You will save 20%. We are all huge fans of Thirdzy, so please support them. Great people, and they make a fantastic product. Let's get into headlines because there are a lot of them, and we want to start with this happened, I think, late last week after we recorded, so we wanted to talk about it here. Lauren and the crew did a good job of discussing some of the stuff on Death By that we're going to bring up. But as many of you know by now, the results of the semifinal drug testing have been released, and 3 of the top 4 men in Asia all tested positive. Ivan Kukurtsev, Ilyas Kuliev, Anatoly Borisenko, and Tyler Lee, which means that Ilya Makarov, who I think finished 5th, now gets the backfill spot, and he will join Arthur Semenov at the CrossFit Games. And there was, you guys had the discussion, Lauren, yesterday about, is there a better way to backfill this stuff? And we had one of our patrons, and I think it was Brad, and I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but brought up a really good discussion point on Friday when we were talking about this. Is it automatic that we should that we should take the next person down? So if the second place person tests positive, we just bump everybody up, and then the third place first person goes. Or is it better to take the sort of the worldwide leaderboard and find the top ranked person who is the first person out and let that person in? And I think there is a case to be made for that system. Now, obviously that only works if you have uniform programming across all qualifying stages. So that's a big caveat to this. And I'm not sure how much longer we are going to have that. But when you have this many people test positive from a region, I feel like you should go to the worldwide rankings, because there's got to be some sort of penalty. You've got to police yourselves better than this. And I know you're punishing more people for the actions of a few, but sometimes that's the only way to get this stuff done. And I'm not saying I'm a total advocate of this, but I think there is something to be said for it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I thought some great stuff was brought up during the discussion during Death By. I think this is something that I could be more and more. At first, I'm like, oof, I don't know where this ultimately leads us. If we had less, this falls apart if we don't have a very clear way of ranking and sorting athletes beyond just what happens in their region and specific competitions. If we can build a comprehensive and well accepted ranking system that continually updates and factors in consistent performance over time as well, I think that becomes a very real possibility, because at some point, if something becomes pervasive in an area, you can't just keep rewarding them with things like additional spots to the games, which is what this ranking system has been handing out anyways. And so it's common in sports like weightlifting and other Olympic sports where you will see entire countries and regions where issues around performance enhancing substances are pervasive. Well, they will punish an entire country. Be like, you don't get your spots, they go elsewhere now. And at some point that has to happen. Now there isn't maybe the unity or state sponsored style like adherence to things the way that you get in those sports. But at some point, you just have to pull the plug on, all right, what is going to be ultimately best for the sport? And is it a fifth place finisher in Asia who's probably going to get cut? Or is it going to be someone that has like Colton Mertens or someone that is a familiar name that has traditionally gotten to the games and slipped up in a really strong region and is just on the cusp? And I think it's the latter.
Yeah, I think that the system that we have right now is not working. And Justin Kotler spoke to a lot of this, that no current system that we have really could give us the right people to then go to the games as backfill options. So having a structured system similar to the way that Rogue is working on theirs and tweaking theirs and figuring out what is the best way forward. And Carolyn, I think she also spoke to looking at things outside of just the big CrossFit events, because if I'm an American athlete, it's easy for me to compete in whether it's Wadapalooza, Miami, SoCal, Rogue, the CrossFit Games, because up until now, Rogue is going to be abroad, but everything's in the US. So that does add a discrepancy for some of these other countries when you look at financially to come and compete in the US. But I think that they were onto something about restructuring some kind of point system, or I know everybody hated the last chance qualifier, but adding something in a situation like this to, okay, these are the athletes that we're going to allow do this workout. Sean, I think you've spoken to it before, like the week before the games or leading up to the games, where people can go spectate and that's your opportunity to punch your ticket. Unfair advantage because it's so close to the games, and again, financially it might not be the best idea, but at this point I think we have to look at other options.
Yeah, I think we inch closer and closer to where like we just have to start to like create new and novel ideas around getting what has consistently been like minor pitfalls of the sport and the process. Whether it's late backfills and athletes being handicapped by timing of things to that put unnecessary financial stressors on them. So yeah, let's open up the playbook a little bit and look at some. I mean, the last chance qualifier could be cool. In this scenario, I think both, let's see, one. Yeah, man. I guess Makarov wouldn't have been at the last chance qualifier because I think it used to take two, but
Yeah.
it's
If
a
it's
more
in
uniform way.
sure, but we I
No, and that's what I mean. Like from a fan
yeah.
perspective, that could be it, I'm I'm not putting the athletes first in this situation because what a logistical financial nightmare, but it could be a way to gain more energy leading into the games.
But one thing is important, right? Like whatever does happen, you have to be very overt in how you um, communicate and like codify these rules in the rule book, right? Like I think even though it may be a novel idea, if you come out early, you're like, hey, we are going to change this upcoming season. We're going to look into and potentially make some changes around how we backfill. And we're going to try and create some opportunities for people to actually compete on a level playing field in order to earn those backfill opportunities, as well as anything that may pop up further down the line. So if you go, hey, um, each like a month after the games, which were or after the last semifinal, which is this weekend, or maybe even we go 3 weeks after the last semifinal, the top three athletes on the bubble from each major region, and the next one or second two down the line on the other ones, you're just going to throw down in a last chance qualifier. That is just to put your hat in the ring that you want to get a backfill. You're not guaranteed anything, right? But this, if you want to throw down, keep the engine warm, and this guarantees you an opportunity potentially earn a spot. Because what year hasn't happened where there hasn't been a drug test and a backfill that's been necessary? And the very least, it also gives them something to train for. and a reason to keep the engine warm. So ultimately, if something like this comes down, you're looking at, oh, we're just a couple weeks post competition now of an online format. So I know that the turnaround isn't going to be as crazy. And if you're one of the top guys, say you win the last chance qualifier, you're like, the odds are I'm probably going to get a spot, right? Or if you're the top two, like odds are I'm going to get a spot. So maybe it gives you something to start to rally around. And that's more bankable information than it is just like what we're doing now, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's the bottom line, is that there's no system is going to be perfect, but there's got to be one that I think it punishes, like you said, these regions that this is continually a thing. Yeah, there's that sort of when I remember when we used to show like the final results from the Asia region, it'd be like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, they still got event 8, which is the drug test that they got to pass. So don't get married to this leaderboard. And are we making the games field better by sending Makarov to that field? He will, no, the answer, and no offense to him, it's going to be a great experience. He gets to go, he gets to really enjoy that. Like, congratulations to him. But did the field get better by putting him in there? And I just think there's a better way to do this.
I mean, you look at Barkley's, cross semifinal leaderboard, and even excluding event 1, where run distances and everything were a little bit different, and you could even argue that the lengths of the floor were a little bit different on a couple things. He's 172nd,
right?
And this is to take nothing away from Makarov and his performance relative to his peers in Asia, right? Top 5 finish at your semifinal, developing country, something to hang your hat on and build on for the future. But when you look around and you're like, well, he finished on this comparison, he finished behind the 13th finisher in Africa. He was just ahead, 1 point ahead of the 33rd place finisher in North America West. It's like, all right, well, at what point are you just like a warm body, at the games? And I don't think anyone wants that.
No, that's pretty much what it is. But again, there's no perfect system, but this thing, we got to find a way to make this better. And if I were CrossFit, I'd come up with like 3 or 4 different systems, put them out there and say, hey, what do you guys think? Kind of like Rogan, give us your feedback. Let's figure this out together. Okay. Next thing we want to get into is that the cuts have been released. So we know what that's going to look like. Cuts have been a part of this sport for a long time. So here it is. We're going to start Thursday with 40 athletes, Friday and Saturday. We'll all start with 40. And then at the end of Saturday, we'll be down to 30. And then we'll cut down to 20 or I shouldn't say by the end of Saturday. On Saturday, at some point, we'll cut to 30. Then they'll probably do like another event and they'll cut to 20. And then 20 athletes go to the final day of competition, men and women. For the teams, 30 show up. They'll get down to 10 by Sunday. So really nothing out of the norm here. Kind of business as usual. But interesting that they, that this got put out, and so people now know what to expect when they get to the games.
Hilarious top comment by Roman. Less people, more oxygen.
Solid.
That's good stuff.
He's funny.
So cuts are going to happen. It'll be and then this always touches off the conversation about the order of the events and how does that change things, and are they, did they test enough to cut down this drastically? And it's like if you get down to 20, then all of a sudden now you put out your heavy lift, and everyone's going to freak out because you didn't test that before. I'll let other people have those conversations, but this is what the cut schedule is going to look like. If you have any questions, or if you're not watching this and you want to go see it visually, you can go to the CrossFit Games Instagram account. So there it is. Cut schedule for the weekend for individuals and for teams. Next thing we want to get into, and this was reported by the Barbell Spin, and I think I have it here. I can put the headline up here. Is that Dave Castro is going to lead the individual programming at the games, and Adrian Bosman is now taking the lead on team events. And Dave revealed this in an interview that he did with James Sprague
on his little like weekend athlete.
The athlete thing he's doing, which he's making some good progress on that. He said he wanted to talk to all 80. I think he's getting close to halfway.
I think he's around 20.
That's it? I thought he had more than that. Okay. Well, then quarter of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's chipping away.
All right. Nice job, Dave. But this is it's intriguing because I feel like the biggest difference that we're going to see now at the games, and I remember when we had Pat Vellner on a few years back when Adrian Bosman first took over, and I thought Pat nailed it. He like hit the nail right on the head with his assessment of what athletes were going to see from Adrian Bosman, and it was a premium on execution. And how many times have we seen that at the games where there's an event where it's like one little mistake and you're screwed?
Single unders.
Yeah, something where it's like you have got to, he called it a controlled panic, where it's like you've got to go fast, you've got to be extremely accurate, and if you miss one rep, you're done. Whereas I don't know if that was Dave's MO with the programming that he had. So this will just be interesting to see how that pendulum now shifts back to the way Dave used to do things.
Yeah, Dave, I would say historically, I mean, you could argue that legless rope climbs introduction to the games were important, and some of those elements have high execution pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, some of the workouts that you think back to from the classic CrossFit days at the StubHub Center are more, beat you up, rough you around, force you to really suffer. Whether it's Murphs or the Burden Runs or Naughty Nancy or, the 333 event and stuff like that. Those are some of the longer events for sure, but even some of the sprinty ones were more classic CrossFit kind of effort, maybe over execution. And that's not fully fair to say because obviously there's always execution at the highest level of the sport. But I think the nature of some of the high skill gymnastics require a little bit more like fine tune execution.
Mm-hmm. And in this article, Dave does say that he and Adrian are bouncing ideas off of each other, but that Dave just wanted to get back into the programming game. And there's something that just popped into my head. They're doing that, that Friday Night Lights event outside in the stadium. They have a track. Like you've got to think that's going to be a more robust event.
Yeah.
That they're going to do most of the stuff inside the Dickies Arena. This is really, I think, Dave's opportunity to either a burden run type of event,
2010s
they bring it back from 2012, something.
2010s pyramid double Helen into max overhead.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep.
That would make sense because 2010 was the first year there at the StubHub Center.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring that back for the first year they're at a new venue would be on par with
poetic.
It was the first event at the track too. So you had 2010. You had Amanda that Friday night, and that Saturday morning you opened up with pyramid double Helen into max overhead.
Yeah. Well, we will certainly keep an eye on that. But interesting that Dave's going to be back calling the shots with some programming. So I'm really curious to see. Like,
are you surprised by that?
Am I surprised? No, because I don't think that when Dave came back, this was part of his legacy for so long.
His work wasn't done.
Right. And I think now that he has a new venue, I think that that's one of those things where it's like it's always going to be part of him where he wants to kind of paint on that canvas.
To keep the discussion going, it's literally like when your dad comes over at the grill on 4th of July, right? Like, hey, it may have been your house now, but pretty soon Pops is going to walk over and be like, so you do a quarter turn every 3 minutes. Let me show you
how I do it. Take it or leave it forever. And then all of a sudden he's grilling. Yes, that's more or less what it is. But
totally I'm not unprepared. He pulls the jazz flute out in the form of a spatula.
Yep, 100%. Okay, next thing we want to get to is the results. If you guys didn't watch it at all, Reps Ahead 3 that happened this past weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch a whole lot of it. I was on the road, but I did try to go watch some of the replays. And if you don't know what Reps Ahead is, it's a format where two athletes go head to head and they go in rounds of a workout, and the workout either ends at a set number of rounds and whoever has the most reps wins, or it ends when someone gets a certain amount of certain total of reps ahead of the other one. So at this point, this is like 14 reps ahead. If you hit that, you win. And they had some pretty good matchups. Malachi Bennett beat Jake Marconi. Kyra Milligan defeated Kelly Stone. James Sprague beat Nick Matthew. That was at 136 in round 2, and Sydney Wells beat Paige Powers. Look, I've said this before. I think you guys, if you haven't, check it out. It's an interesting format that I think definitely has some legs to it.
Yeah, they're getting some good athletes too to add to the interest. I think it's fun.
And it's one of those ways where you could have, mentioned this last week, you can have athletes competing more often on a bigger stage, and they're not totally just thrashing themselves for a weekend to where their training has now been disrupted for whatever competition they're getting ready for, whatever big competition. So yeah, Reps Ahead, I think it's a cool thing, and they're going to be doing more, I think, throughout the year.
And it's easy to follow.
Yeah, it's super simple. And that's a really good point, because that's one thing where if I am sitting down with someone who has no idea what this sport is or what it's about, I can just say they're going to do this, and once that scoreboard says that certain amount, it's over. Very simple to follow. It's confined in a pretty small space, easy to shoot, easy to present. There's a lot of things in there that are very viewer friendly. Yeah. Okay, final thing before we get into the fun is we are partnering with our good friends from Barbells for Bullies, since we are smack dab in the middle of the dog days of summer. We're trying to get some dogs adopted, and our dog of the week is Lindsay. Puppy, loves toys, knows some basic commands, loves walks, playful, crate trained. Lindsay is on deck this week for Dog of the Week. Reading from the caption here, Lindsay is a sweet puppy who currently is in rescue with @mostly_mutts in Kennesaw, Georgia. She is sweet and playful, who is a puppy full of energy. Because of this, she is looking for an active family with kids over 10. She is crate and house trained and has done her basic commands training as part of a prison dogs program. So if Lindsay looks like your type of dog and you want to adopt her, you can reach out to Mostly Mutts in Kennesaw, Georgia. If you're interested in possibly adopting Lindsay and you don't live near Kennesaw, Georgia, you can hit up Barbells for Bullies. There are times where they will facilitate some out-of-state adoptions. They are fantastic at doing that. Lindsay and Alex, great people, and they will do pretty much whatever it takes to get these dogs a home. But there's that, and oh yeah, that's a sweetie right there. So if you're looking for a good dog and you want to help a pup out, Lindsay is your mutt.
Man,
beautiful. Look at that tongue.
No,
that's a good. What do they call it? A mlep when they do that.
Oh, I've never heard of that. A mlep?
That's the mlep when they do that. If you guys aren't, please go follow Barbells for Bullies. They're a great account. They do a lot of really cool work. And if you're a gym that wants to put on a competition to help them out, they do a lot of that too. They do like Helens for Hounds. They'll come into your gym. They'll help you organize a competition where the entry fee is like you bring a can of dog food or a bag of dog food or something to donate to your local shelter. They do awesome work. Barbells for Bullies on Instagram. Barbellsforbullies.com is the website. And the rescue, again, is @mostly_mutts if you want to find Lindsay. Okay, that is going to do it for today's headlines.